You heard right. Hiya Napa! Carry On Comedy and One Love Weekender. For the first time ever, 2 brands, 1 weekend, 4th to the 8th of May 2023. The King's Coronation Weekend. Let's party together. Let's laugh together. Pool parties, beach parties, boat parties, themed parties, and live comedy performances from Carry On Comedy comedians. Featuring an all-star DJ lineup. Playing the best old and new school R&B, bashment, hip-hop, soulful house, tribal, amapiano, afrobeats, soca, jungle, house and garage, with a touch of slow jams. Wristbands start from £179 plus booking fee. Flights and hotel packages start from as little as £364 for 4-star, £402 5-star. Book your wristbands now. Secure your spot with a mere £50 deposit. Don't delay. Where will you be? Hiya Napa! Carry On Comedy and One Love Weekender, May 4th to the 8th, 2023.
Get your holidays, get your weekenders, get your tickets.co.uk.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, MMCO Emporium Pink Dress Ball, Saturday the 7th of October, held in a beautiful mansion located in Pall Mall. 11 magnificent rooms of entertainment spread over 3 luxurious floors. This adds up to one amazing experience. Strict dress code, ladies pink dress, gentlemen black tie. For more information, visit the website www.mmco-emporium.com or www.getyourtickets.co.uk or call the information hotline on 07555 333 259 to get your tickets now and make it a wonderful event for you, your friends and family.
Here's GY Radio, the little station with big intentions. You better know that.
Definitely the little station with big intentions. So, HPQ.
Hey, right. So we are back. We've had 2 guests, and there's still an echo going on there with you. Yeah, we had 2 great guests already. We've had Pablo and we've had Alicia. We're now going to go on to a 3rd guest. Now, remember, I was talking to you about Long Lost Family. I was watching one last night. Actually, the footballer that played for Scotland, Dominic Mateus, I think his name was, he found his mum. So that was a really good story as well. And Lady B in the chat room said Kelly Rowland from Destiny's Child found her father and he didn't want to know her. That's a difficult one. Now we're on to our 3rd guest. She happens to be a great friend of mine also, and has also been through some of the things that we've been talking about today in terms of facing adversity. So without any further delays, I'd like to bring on my next guest. This is Dr. Donette Green. Good afternoon, my lovely, or good morning, should I say to you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to you.
And you're dialing in. You're calling in where, Donette? Tell everybody where we can find you. I'm going to call you Dr. Donette.
Hold on.
Today.
Are you still getting an echo?
No, it's all done. Thank you.
Hey, Sharky.
Hi. How are you doing, Donette? How are you? Long time. Oh my gosh! I just realized who it is.
Yeah. So I am calling from New Jersey.
Yes.
United States.
Well, good to see you. And what time is it over there right now? Because the clocks went forward.
It's 9:05.
9:05. Well, you're looking very
5
bright.
hours behind us.
Bright and bubblicious this morning. Well, as I said, this is Dr. Donette Green, and you've come on today to talk to us about grief and adversity. Now, first of all, before we go into this, I just want to get a little bit of background about yourself. And you work at the moment where? In child services. That's the main crux. Tell us about the main crux of your job before we go on.
Okay, so the main part of my work that I do is I work in child protection. I've been in that field for 21 years. Done a lot of different things with child protection, be it being in the field. Now my job and my role is pretty much engaging police officers, educators, and prosecutors on how to report child abuse and neglect, or in some cases they would call it safeguarding. I also am a professor of that field, so I teach at a university here child abuse and neglect, as well as a university in the UK in safeguarding as well. In addition to that, I do a lot of parenting workshops just based on that information, just engaging parents in intervention and making sure that we know how to handle the issues that sometimes lead to abuse and neglect.
Okay, so you've got just a significant amount of experience and education around the areas that you work in. What made you want to get into child protection? Was it something you fell into? Was it something you aspired to do?
I want to say that I fell into it. And honestly, because I'll tell you, when I went to undergrad, I was supposed to be a physical therapist. So I always knew I wanted to be a doctor, just kind of deviated a bit from that. And once graduating undergrad, I was fortunate enough to get a job with the government here, and then transitioned into child welfare. I have a passion for giving back, and I have a passion for pouring into others. And so that's a rewarding field despite the struggles and the trauma that comes with it. Once you talk to someone and you help them engage and change their direction of life, the reward of hearing back from them 20 years later, or having the connection that I've had with some of the children who were lost and running the streets, that makes this job all worth it. And so it's things like that that keeps me going and doing a lot of the work that I do today.
Okay, and you said that you had worked in the UK within child protection, child welfare, or child services.
No, I actually teach currently in the UK
Okay,
in safeguarding. Yeah, so I teach at the master's level at a university in Buckinghamshire. Yeah.
nice one. Now, how different is the child protection services versus the US? Because you must know a little about the UK child protection, child welfare services. Does it differ much from the US?
The basis of it is pretty similar. I want to say that the laws are different, which is sometimes my struggles on the weekend preparing for my lectures. Both classes happen to be on the same day.
Hmm.
And I've learned a lot within the last 2 months on the UK laws that backs the safeguarding. The services are similar. I think that the seriousness of it is a little different in terms of safeguarding as a whole. So here in the United States, I focus a lot on child welfare, whereas in the UK, focus on safeguarding as a whole. So there's safeguarding adults, safeguarding children, safeguarding elders. And so that's really big there. And so there are different agencies within the UK that perform those tasks and make sure that those individuals are safe. Whereas in here, there's one government agency for, like the mainstream government
Yeah.
agency that will cover child welfare. And that's who I work for. And then we kind of delegate out to our service providers to be able to, provide the services that the families need for stabilization.
Okay. Now, obviously, you work in a highly pressurized role. You've been privy to seeing all sorts of things in that role. And we've spoken about a few of those. And, we've even spoken about how do you deal with this? How do you bounce back from this? And, there's been lots of different situations that have happened.
Yes.
And before we go into those, what does your role actually look like in terms of parenting and child protection? Do you actually go into people's homes and talk to them, or do they come to you, or do you look after a team of people that do that? Are you physically on the ground?
I am no longer physically on the ground. March 30th of last year, and we'll talk about what that looked like. So that was, the last big me being physically on the ground. Honestly, my role right now is an out of the field role. I was still on just, like extra money on the side working on call. So like the calls come in at 2 a.m., I would be the ones to go out on that. COVID, I'll talk to you about COVID impact team, where they were unsure about what child protection services was going to look like. So I was on call for 106 days for 24/7. And that kind of led to a little challenge with me as well. And so my role literally right now is to provide my staff of 155 with all the services they need to engage their families, to service their families. So if they need a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a parenting class, a sex abuse assessment, fire setting assessment, if whatever community engagement, building the gap between our government agency and the community. That's my role, making sure the police and the teachers know what child abuse and neglect looks like, know how to make the call, how to delineate whether, it might be an accidental means or intentional child abuse or neglect, and how to connect their agency to us. So that's actually my role at this time. And so I've been in that role for this is 2023, so 13 years. 13 years in that role, and that's considered a part of the management team in that role. So what we do, we have a local office manager who I report to, and he runs the office, and we work alongside a team of other professionals, leaders, who we just collaborate in different forces to make sure that our workers always have the best services to service their families.
Wow. So there's and there's a bit of an echo going on there. Can I put you on mute for a second, Sharky? Right. So in all of that I've got an echo. I don't even think it's coming from Sharky. It might be you, Miss Dr. Donette Green.
Don't worry, I've sorted it out. It's okay.
Oh, thank you. All right. So in terms of everything you do, okay, it's not a job for the faint-hearted. And you said that you was on the ground up until last year. Tell us about some of the things that you've been engaged with, some things that have been quite difficult. I think one of the first ones you said is that you had a conversation with a murderer. How do you get to have a conversation with a murderer? And I don't know how I can. I've been an appropriate adult before, so I've been in police stations and looked after people maybe when they're vulnerable. And I haven't had a chance to speak to a murderer because normally they've got police control over them or you can't get to speak to them. But tell me about that situation, how you found yourself in that spot and what happened.
So there was a situation a few years ago where a man was in 3 days pretty much going back at his children's mothers, and he committed a murder one Friday night. I didn't respond to that, and then he committed a murder on a Saturday night. And as he committed the murder on a Saturday night in front of his three children, he killed the mother and her boyfriend. And so in a innocent way, for me, a part of this child protection world is making sure that children remain with family first and foremost. And so that particular night, I remember being on the phone aggressively, just thinking of the children. I have these three. Well, one of them was actually not his child. It was the child of the man who got killed as well. So two of them were his children. And so I remember just being so hurt that these children just watched and witnessed their mom passing. And so in the midst of that, I just kind of got on the phone and I was calling, down to our register center, just saying, this is the mom. She's been in our system before. I need to find the father. Because I don't want to have to traumatize these children anymore and put them in foster care. And so just literally in an aggressive way, I'm like, someone find me the number to the father. And so I got the number to the father, and I called him innocently, and I'm just having an engaging conversation. My friends like to say, like, you're one of those people that you can kind of talk and charm your way through certain things. And so I had a conversation with this man, and he answered the phone, and I talked to him, and I told him who I was. And he told me he was busy, and I said, I don't know how busy you could be, but I can't tell you over the phone what's going on, but I need you to meet me. I have your children. And I said, something happened and I really need to talk to you. I need to see you. And I kind of told him where I was going to be. And so he disconnected the conversation. I called him back. And on the third conversation, he probably was like, okay, this lady is annoying. And so I said to him, listen, I need to talk to you. I have your children. I'm going to be at the hospital. And so while I was on the phone with him, clearly we're at the murder scene. And so the police officers was trying to get my attention. And one of them said, Miss Green, we need to talk to you. What's your next step? What are you doing next? We got to figure this out. And I said, give me 1 second. I'm on with the father. And so the detective was like, what do you mean you're on with the father? I said, the kid's father. I'm trying to get him to meet me. And they're like giving me all these signals. And then one detective is like, that's the suspect. And I'm like on the phone, like, so yeah. So are you going to be able to meet me at the hospital with the children? And then we can talk then, And so when I got off the phone with them, they were like, yeah, there's no way this man is going to meet you. We've been looking for him since last night. So maybe like 4 hours later, I called him again and I told him where I was. And I'm like, I'm wearing a gray sweatsuit. I'll be in, the back of the hospital in the pediatric unit, blah, blah, blah. And he said, okay, I'm coming in. And I'm like, okay. And so, of course, by this point, the detectives are on me, right? I'm not alone.
Yeah. So you actually had to set up this thing to trap the murderer.
Right. And so, and it's crazy because even in the class I taught a class last week, a workshop, managing difficult conversations. And I was just telling people, like, we have to have difficult conversations in life, period. In relationships, in our households with our children, in our jobs with our colleagues. And so, I was trying to think through the workshop as I'm going on, and I'm talking to a bunch of social workers, actually. And I said, that has got to be the most difficult conversation I've ever had, period.
Because you don't get any training in that, do you? In terms of you get training in handling difficult conversations, but actually being at the crux of that conversation, nobody can prepare you for that. And trying to, whenever we embark upon a situation where we're scared, you get that fight or flight instinct, right? And your heartbeat races and your voice can start to shake just because of your whole system going into shock almost. And I don't know if I could keep that level of composure in a situation like that. I'm talking to someone who's potentially wiped up some of their family, and you're saying, come and meet me, and you're the pawn in all of that as well. I'll be thinking, how are you gonna ensure my safety? What if this man sees my face and comes after me? And that's another thing in your profession where, have you removed kids where they've threatened you before?
Absolutely. I've ran and it's not as I look back, I even think of my very first time removing children from a house, and my buddy at the time, who is now, as well as grown through the chains, and is now running his own office. We laugh at this situation because it was one of those cases where, we kind of went in and we didn't have the intention of doing that. But because of the things that we saw, like this particular kid, I remember had a cigarette burn in the corner of her eye right here. And at that moment, we knew that we couldn't leave the children there. And so we were talking to the mom, and she was a mute. So, we had a translator with us. And I'm talking to her like, this is not okay. What happened? And she was just like really irate. And so I told her, I said, just to protect these children, I'm going to have to take them. And this is a case that I've had before ahead of time. So it wasn't like my first time meeting her. And I remember her saying, I'll be right back. Right. And so he and I were sitting there and we're looking at the two children, and we're in this apartment by ourselves. And I'm like thinking to myself, like, where the heck does she go? Right. And so at that moment, we were just like packing the bags, like getting the children's clothes, and we're throwing it over, and we're just fresh in the field. Right. And so we're going down to our vehicle. And as we're going to the vehicle, we see her coming back with a slew of gang members. Right. And so we literally threw these kids in the back of the car. I jumped in the back of the car with them, no strap in the car, run. And like, he's like peeling out. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, she was really coming to get us. We did not have the police with us. Like, it was just he and I and these two children. Of course, the translator, she jumped in her own car, but we had the kids under one arm. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
But your adrenaline goes in those situations, but they are heart-rending situations you do put yourself in, and you must be scared for your safety at some points. Has anyone ever found out where you lived or tried to threaten you in some sense of the way? If no, that's a good thing.
So if you so you notice it says Donette Patrice whenever, like, on my social media, for the most part. because people have searched Donette Green. The part of it years ago, because we were government officials, our information is considered public information, and so I have had that. I haven't had anyone literally come to my home and threaten me. In the sense of that case, just for protective services, I did have a detail for a little bit, and someone just watching over me. People have tried to find me on social media and send messages. They've done that, which is why I've changed my Facebook to Donette Patrice. Because that was usually the easiest way for them to reach out. Now that I have a business, my company is registered here, so my stuff is public. You Google Dr. Donette Green, you're gonna, it's easy. I am a God-fearing woman, so he protects me. I have done and seen a lot in this field, and 21 years, and I'm still here. In talking about some of the things that we've dealt with, and we've talked about this before as well. I don't know. Well, I'll bring you to probably the most challenging thing. So, during the pandemic, so March 16th, whatever that was, the government shut down. They're like, we need some workers that we can trust in the field. We know you haven't been a field worker in years, but you work on call. So we know that you can make decisions, sound decisions or whatever. So we did that. And so there were 44 of us in the field. And so as you would know, I lost my best friend April 17th. April 17th.
We're going to talk about that afterwards, because that is the part of the grief in terms of this conversation, because that hit you quite hard. He was my cousin,
yes.
your best friend,
Yes.
and you were extremely close. I met him for the first time when I met you. I met you both at the same time. You came as a package, as far as I'm concerned. But his death affected you quite a bit.
Absolutely. That was, my son's go-to. That was his godfather. That was his mentor. That was, he was everything. He has been in our family for so many years, and that was that's my right hand.
And if I speak from the heart, when I met him, and he said, "This is my best friend," and I could see that you were his best friend. I felt that connection. I knew it. I saw it. We partied together, a few times whenever we went out or whatever. So I knew that would hit you somewhat as much as it hit the rest of the family, and it was a hard thing for you to deal with.
It was.
And out of all the things you struggled with, I felt like you struggled with that one more than sometimes what's happened in some of your roles as well.
Absolutely. He was a protector. He was a protector for all of us. Carlene, Cherise, I actually have book club in a little while. We do our book club, which started after his death, with his wife and the nieces and everything. And that's the way we stayed connected. Right. And so because I was in the field, they wanted to pull me out. Actually, I'll tell you, so we're getting ready to move our office, right? Years ago, when I got an office space, they gave me my office, and the walls were just white, and it was dirty, and I was just I don't like this office. I'm glad they gave me an office, but so I told them, I was I want to paint my office now. It's a government building, and they're like, you're not supposed to paint. So I said, we bought is it low octane, whatever paint you can't smell. And we went in and painted my office gray. So the other day they were coming through to do their, evaluations. They're like, your office wall gray. But anyway, so that did hit me at that time. And my leaders wanted me to just kind of pull back. And I couldn't, because for me, I know different individuals deal with grief in different ways. I have to keep going. I can't sit in the house. I can't stop and have too much time to think. I have to keep going. And while I don't recommend it for everyone, I know what works for me. So at that moment, I've had conversation with friends, and they're like, D, are you sure, you're okay with going on? This is, there's a pandemic. You're working in the field. So I worked in the field. He passed. I was literally, from being on on the floor crying to going out on the case. 10 days later, I'm in the field on a case. And this guy points a gun at my head, right?
Just out of nowhere, he points a gun at your head, or was it at somewhere where you were?
So I was at his house the day before. He didn't want to let me in. He had, one of those guys that had like a wife and a baby mom, and they all live in the same house, and then they got like 5 kids, and like I'm not calling him out on his stuff. Like if you like it, I love it. I'm not here. I'm never probably the least judgmental friend anyone will ever have. My friends that are on will tell you that. But if children are unsafe, be it your wife's children or your other, like, I need to assess. He wouldn't let me in the house. So he said to me, oh, we'll come back tomorrow at 2:30. And I'm just like, okay, I'll be back tomorrow at 2:30. I got to come outside anyway, right? So I come outside. We're always with a buddy. So we come out and I pull up. Now, what I will tell you is living in New Jersey, you have a certain, when you drive a certain type of vehicle, you drive a certain way. For years, once I purchased a luxury vehicle, I have a habit of checking my surroundings before I come out the car. Carjack heavily in North New Jersey. And so while I'm driving the government vehicle, I just have a habit of doing that. So I'm getting ready to come out this car and I look and I see this man reach down into his waist and pull the gun out. And so the gun is like right here. And I'm like, what do I do? So my buddy who doesn't listen to me, and I got on her about this, she was halfway foot already out the door. Now we've been working at this point since March 16th together. And I'm like, listen, wait till we give each other the signal. We have to put our PPE on and everything. So unfortunately, I pulled off and the car door slammed on her foot. It wasn't broken or anything, but it did, it was hurt. And then there are speed bumps on this particular street. So I'm flying like toward the bottom of this car up. But it's the worst. And then I go down the street, make a left, go to the police station, waited about 5 hours there. By the time we went back around, because remember, it's a pandemic, so police just have a lot going on. By the time we went back, there was nobody outside, so they never found the guys. Like, I did this whole investigation. It was like a whole thing. Nothing ever came of it. So my leaders are now like, all right, Donette, maybe you should, maybe this is it. Like, relax. Like, and I'm like, no, there's a pandemic. My son is at my mom's. I said I was going to do this. We still don't know when it's over. If I drop off the team, then the team's going, my buddy's going to have to drop off. They're going to be short. These children need to be saved. I'm good. Like, I can talk to my people. And thankfully, I have the most amazing people around me. And while they don't always understand the work that I do, they're just great at listening. They're great at just, comforting me in certain ways. And so there I was going out again.
This is just like two small relative stories in the vast experience that you've had in your career. And you must come across this all the time. And, as I said, you had the death of a friend, you were held at gunpoint, and then another, you spoke to a murderer, you said, and another case of adversity, a child had died as well.
That one, and, there's not many people that'll tell you that something almost took them out. That one took me out, and I'm tearing up as we speak. And I just did a conference yesterday where I tell you that my mom is the most amazing woman. She's overcome adversities in ways. My mom is a nurse, and one of the biggest things she's ever had to deal with in Kingston, Jamaica, like, she's a nurse. She went into a hospital room. One day my dad didn't come home. She's like, whatever, I'm getting up, I'm going to work. That's on him. She gets to work. She's pulling the file, and the guy in the room is my dad, her husband. Why? Because he was robbed at gunpoint, stabbed up, cut up, put newspaper over him, left to die, and she was the person that was going in. So of course her friends had to take it off. So that's another story for another day.
Gosh.
So I'll tell
Sounds
you
terrible.
about this. So, absolutely. March 30th of last year, I'm here. It was like I remember I was up early because I struggle with sleeping as a result of a lot of the things that I go through, that I've been through. And so I remember I was on the phone. It was 5:30 a.m. our time. And I was on the phone and I'm like, oh, well, you know, I'm about to go to the gym, blah, blah, blah. And my phone rings and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm getting a case. And so I got a case and on call ends at 9 a.m. So I'm like, okay, let me just get out here. So they're telling me about 3 children in distress. I'm already dressed because I was getting ready to go to the gym. And so I responded out to this case. And when I get there, I see 2 children, you know, like badly bruised. And then I said to the doctor, I'm like, where's the 3rd child? And the doctor just pointed. So when the doctor points, if someone points, you're going to look. So the doctor pointed and I looked to the right, and there was the baby expired. Now, I mean, like, just mouth open, eyes open. No one covered the baby as of yet.
Oh my
and when
gosh.
I tell you, I've done this for 21 years. I have never responded like this. I collapsed on the floor. I began bawling, crying, hysterically. That went on for a while. Eventually, I had to get up because I had to speak to the police. I had to speak to the perpetrator. I had to speak to the mother. I even had to tell the father, who came a little while after. He came like, oh, like, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? I'm like, she's gone, right? Watch him pass out. That situation of my worse than talking to a murderer. And so one of the things that brought me through that, I came back home. So now I have to get the reports together. So I come back home. It's probably like 10 o'clock. Ideal is that when you're finished on call, you get ready for work,
Right.
and you work and do your report. You have to send the reports over because it's a whole lot of stuff behind the scene. I'm still crying. I'm still shaking. But, I drove home and I pulled home. When I pulled into my driveway, now my mom lives in Florida. My son was pulling in the driveway. And as he pulled in the driveway, my mom comes out the car. She was going to Canada and had a layover in New Jersey. And I just fell into her arms. And she's like, what's going on? What's going on? So I told her what's going on. So that was a Tuesday. The hard part was that the baby would have been 1 that Friday. So same me, I'm going. My friends are telling me, like, maybe you need to just cool out. I'm going to work. I'm trying. I took, my boss did give me a couple of days off. And then maybe like the Saturday, my mom was talking to me on FaceTime and she was like, you don't look good. And I'm like, I thought I was okay. When was the last time you slept? And then I realized I hadn't slept since I woke up that morning. That was one thing. And then my girlfriend came over here with her baby and I'm holding her baby.
Oh my gosh.
Blacked out and I almost dropped her baby. So I went to the doctor the following Monday. My blood pressure was
sky high.
And the doctor said, I'm sending you to a psychiatrist. And you're out of work indefinitely. So I was actually out of work for 4 months.
Okay. Donette, hold on 1 second there, because we've had lots of comments coming into the chat room as you've been talking. There's a lot of comments coming in. So let's just address some of them before we move on to them. Gosh, we've got so much. We're going to go back. We're going right back. Oh gosh. Papa God, surround this woman with warrior angels, continued wisdom and focus, because this is real right here. That comes from Nats. And she says, Dr. Donette Green, Spirit called you for this. Silverno number 1 says, so much of the work is about the support and supervision offered to frontline workers, or maybe where is the support and supervision offered to frontline workers? Dr. Green, so true. In these roles, you find yourself in these situations where you have to think on your feet due to training. Oh gosh, that went. You don't give.
Which they don't give you.
That's it. And Sylvano1 says the work is stressful if frontline workers don't receive adequate support. This makes more stress and burnout. Nat said HBQ was going to ask if she's had serious security at her home. I think we addressed that one. The most important thing is to support workers in expressing the emotional impact of the work on them. Nat's also said the systems do not have counselling therapy for these workers, though, like they do for the police. We need to check. We're going to ask you that question there, whether you do have support behind you, emotional support when situations happen like that. Nat Sanu said, that's me also. I have to keep going, otherwise I will melt down. Totally understand. She's also put, oh my goodness, geez, a gun at your head. And she loves the fact that you've got a great team of people around you. And your network around you is a great support. Without that, you would crumble. There is so much in here.
Yeah.
I'll read the last two before I go on.
You got one from Sylvan.
Yeah, I'm going to read that one. Yes, that's true, but I'm normally involved in a lot of work with supervisors, helping them to include in this work as supervisors. People who do this work absolutely suffer from vicarious trauma. It looks like Sylvano1 works in this type of field also. Marcia Williams says, I work in children in care. I stop reading the care notes now because sometimes you just cry when you read why they come into care, and I just do the admin. So imagine the actual people who go out to get these children that are in trouble, and says that you are a very special person. Now, I've been a foster carer as well, and I've not been frontline to how you are. I've seen some things and I've read case notes on some of the children that have come to me. And sometimes you wonder how people have become parents, how they hang on to their kids. And one of the things that must be difficult for you as well in what you do is that you said the last straw is removing children from the parents. And that's one of the things sometimes that we see on the news. Why weren't the children taken away from the parents? It's a balance
that they have to strike. And I have a few family members, very close family, that are in that sector, and it's not an easy job at all whatsoever. But you have to do it, because if you don't, and obviously there's a case later on, there's a case to answer for. You have to answer, why didn't you do your job?
Absolutely.
So coming back to this trauma that you had with the young baby, what do you get support in your role in terms of, if you've gone through some trauma like that, do your employers, without calling them out, do they recognize, well, actually, because you said take some time out, but do you get like proper support behind you if needed or if requested?
So we do have, they do have helplines. They do have helplines, people who check in, who like retired workers. In my particular circumstance, the unfortunate thing was that the person that they were assigning to me, they were like, oh, we'll get you, you can go in to see a therapist on April, I remember it was like April 22nd, right? And so I thought to myself, like, this is April at this point now, because the incident happened March. This was like April 4th, right? And then April 22nd, I'm like, how do you wait till then to start? Like, I'm already out of work. I'm at home. I can't even begin to tell you where I was. Like, that'd be a whole nother conversation for another day. But I came to the UK, right? And I was there for a while. And it was while I was there, actually, that I had my first therapy session virtually. And she is still in my life. She is amazing. I've gradually gotten myself, or we've gotten me from every week, because I was with her for every week from April to December. And then starting in January, I'm now once a month with her.
So there was a lot of that. Well, I mean, but obviously all of the trauma that you go through in your role, sometimes you don't realize the amount of trauma you go through, and you take it in. And as you said, you just keep going and going. And that just intensifies, and somehow it has to it has to implode somehow. And I think the last thing probably might have been the child, you
Yeah,
know, the
that's
way that you said your reaction towards it.
And you don't know when that moment's going to come when you're just going to explode, right? And that was it. One of the things that I do, make sure that I do, is I am very transparent about my circumstances. So my students can tell you about the things that I've experienced, because at some point in teaching social work and safeguarding, you have to be able to be vulnerable so that they can understand where they're going. And it's not a fear tactic, because I want people to be able to do this work. I want to grow other social workers, but I also want them to understand the challenges and how to overcome those challenges. So in addition to me going to therapy, I've created a platform for myself to be able to speak to social workers. So a lot of the work that I do now with Distinctly Guided, which is my business, and I do that, both here and internationally. I've created parenting workshops. So I have something called Parenting Without a Manual, that teaches parents about,
Like that.
preventative methods and things like that. Adverse childhood experiences, because just like I've had adverse childhood experiences, as a parent, I need to be able to talk about those things and let my son know and let other individuals know what it looks like, and not to project that onto him or onto other people. So that's one part of it. And then when it comes to the social workers, I do the same thing. So I have managing difficult conversations, right? Problem solving and decision making. I also talk to them about mindfulness, and moving forward. And I've done that work in Jamaica as well. I do a trip there where we go in and talk to different individuals in inner city communities to work on preventative methods of child maltreatment and things like that. So that's another thing that I do, just giving back so that people understand the challenges about parenting, the challenges about trauma, and making sure that individuals are able to sustain themselves within that. But improving mindfulness. I honestly did that 2 times this weekend already. It's probably my most impactful workshop,
It
because
is.
it's how you stay present. It's how you calm your spirit. It's how you just, be conscious within oneself. And improving mindfulness is not just for the job, it's for, personally with my child. You know, you have to be able to understand how you go through the chatter in your head, because we all have that chatter in our head, right? There's that conscious, and there's that roommate that lives there in our head, and there's telling us things. And don't listen to the roommate; they just talk. We female tend to listen to the
I
roommate a
do
little too
like
much.
that analogy. Don't listen to the roommate.
Don't
I
listen to
love
the
that.
roommate.
I've never used that one before,
Don't
but
don't don't
I
listen
did
to your
do.
roommate. It's the same way, like, you're sitting in the house and you're like, where is he? He hasn't called me in about 4 days. Oh, is he out with somebody else? No, he's not. No, he's not, roommate. Shut up.
Don't listen to your mate.
Don't
Don't
listen
Don't
listen
to
to your
your
listen.
friend.
Do-
Don't listen to
Doc,
the single woman.
Dr. Green, hold on one second. Aisha B says we need to get your links up because she's a PhD. Wow, Aisha, I'm impressed. She's a PhD organizational psychology student, so she wants to get in touch with you. Perhaps, I don't
Sure.
know, you two can collectively do something together. So
Yeah.
Aisha, I will get her details. Can you just say where? Because you know what, I could talk to you forever, and I'm going to bring you onto one of my ladies' night shows because we need to
Let's
feature you
go.
for more than an hour. You're coming into one of the ladies' nights,
Let's
and we'll
go.
talk about this a little bit more in depth. But I'm keeping to a little bit of a time today,
Okay.
and I'm just going to wrap up very quickly. But before that, can you tell everybody where they can find you, and then we'll wrap up a little bit.
So
Because
you
someone's
can
got a
find
question.
me via email at Dr. Green, Dr. Green, Green, at distinctlyguided.com. And then on Instagram, you can find me at distinctly_guided.
Distinctly underscore guide. Yep.
Distinctly_guided. Also, there's I gave you the email, right? Yeah. Oh, and the website is www.distinctlyguided.com.
Okay, I'm going to put all of these links in the chat, everybody, and I'm going to get Dr. Green to send them to me very quickly on WhatsApp. Send me all the links, and I'll put them all into the chat for you guys, and I'll put them on the ticker there. Now, thank you so much for imparting so much information on what you do, the education that you've come from, what you do in the UK. You are doing some wonderful things out here, really, and you've got so many comments in the chat room here. I'm going to let Sharky read out some of them while I go and take a very quick break. But Dr. Green, thank you so much for coming on once again. She's going to feature back on one of my ladies' night show, everybody. So look out for when I feature this young lady coming on, and we'll dig deep some more into some of the stuff that you do, and we'll pass on the links for everybody that's actually asking.
I'm sending them now.
Thank you. Stay in the green room. We'll try and bring you on after the show. We'll have a quick roundup of everything. And we'll bring you back in then if you've got some time.
Yes. 13 minutes before we end GY Radio.
Thank you, Dr. Green.
Thanks, Ali. Thanks, Sharky.
Thank you very much. That was great. Lots of information there. And brilliant.
There was. Right, now I'm going to take a very, very quick break to get my next guest up on board, and I will leave you to play some lovely music and to obviously read out some of these comments that we didn't get round to. I'll let you do that, Sharky. Thank you so much.
Will do.
You are on the virtual couch with the House Party Queen.
On the virtual couch with House Party Queen.
On the virtual couch with House Party Queen.
So, gonna pick up Dr. Donette Green. What a fantastic information going on into the social world of taking care of others. So, let me go through the chat and see what has been said. Missed out some, but never mind. I know Marcia will love this one.
'Cause what's been said already got me fooled. I don't need inspiration. I'm trying to let you know that this ain't cool. I can't take no more lies. You've been messing with my mind. I no longer feel your vibe, babe. I don't need convincing love. There's nothing more to say. I'm not begging you to stay, babe. What happened to you? You're not the man I once knew. All these blows,
So one from Pearl Lady, she says self-care is the number one in these roles.
babe, I'm following through.
And that says that, you see that? It's like trying to get a doctor these days. You'd be dead by then. Geez, absolutely. Can't get a doctor anywhere. The whole mental trauma and you are asking someone to wait is what's that? It's absolutely crazy. I absolutely agree with you on that one, Nats. So Nat says, Dr. Green, I totally agree with you. Being real with the potential social workers, this is a special calling.
Time and time again you show.
And also Nat says, HPQ sounds like questions that should be asked of all professionals in management positions and handling people. Yep, definitely.
You cross that line and push me right on through.
So our Aisha B, she got, I'm a PhD in organizational psychology student. Oh wow. So you clever. Love it. Now, so we could listen to Dr. Green for her for ages. Yes, bring her back, please. Definitely going to bring her back on one of the Thursday night on the Ladies' Day where they chat all sorts. It's going to be actually a good one, that one. Looking forward to that. Aisha B says, HBQ, this show has been great. All of your guests have been amazing. I'm still crying. Yes, they've definitely been amazing. We've got one more. Marcia says that, you know. Saliba, she sings about true feelings. She's my girl, love her. Yeah, she keeps it real, doesn't she? She don't ramp that one. She ain't scared. She put it out there. She says people talk behind people's back, but you know what? I'll put it out there. What you don't want to say, I will just tell it real and tell it as it is. Absolutely. Some beautiful, powerful people on this network. Yes, I agree with you, Aisha. Nat says Donette owes a PhD in law and public policy, where her studies focus in custodian parents and perspective on discipline using corporal punishment. I think we should bring back corporal punishment because some of these picnic them need a lick. But you know what, like you have to look at the root cause as to why some of the children are the way they are today, and you have to blame the parents. You have to blame their upbringing. If you throw food at a dog and you don't teach it how to eat out the bowl properly, it will bite your hand off. Okay, doesn't matter how friendly you are. If it's hungry, it's hungry, and that is how the children are being brought up these days, and people need to understand that. Anyway, here's one, a brand new one from the Nubian Queens.
Lil Babs. What's up, Jess? Oh my days.
So big up the Nubian Queens. Lovely set of ladies. You know, girl power. I believe in girl power, you know. Empowering all the women, yeah? Equality, yeah? But equality means equality. It doesn't mean that we ladies take over. It means equality, right?
When you say that you need me, baby, I don't mind, don't mind.
Let me rewind that one. This is the Nubian Queens, all right? Three lovely young ladies that's been around for the last few years over the pandemic, and they've been absolutely doing really, really well. This one's called Rocked My World.
Lil.
Sometimes we gotta play these tunes on the station to get people used to the vibes that's coming out, so we don't stay with the same old. Some DJs are scared to move on, but you know what? I will play them out.
You tell me you love me all the time.
Ooh.
When